Hey guys, I'm Attached Wisp, and today I will be bringing you a guide on my favorite hero, Warden. I am currently rank 6 on Dota buff, with a peak of rank 1 in 2017, and have over 1,400 games on the hero across my accounts. So firstly I want to talk a little bit about Ark's base stats. Ark has some of the best starting stats in the game. Starting with an impressive 25 strength and 3.0 strength gain, Ark will always have a very high HP pool, especially alongside the 300 HP talent. He also has a respectable starting mana pool and int gain for an agility hero. Even though agility is Ark's main attribute, it is one of the lowest gains at 2.4 per level compared to other agility cores. This is made up though as the game progresses because you have the ability to produce a second hero most of the game. This also means that Ark has low armor and is vulnerable to high physical damage cores. Ark has a good base starting damage thanks to recent buffs, with a starting damage of around 60 to 62 damage after starting items. I also feel Ark has one of the better attack animations and projectile speeds out of the ranged heroes, and it's quite easy to get the feel of for someone who is just picking the hero up. He also has 625 attack range, which is great to bully people out of lane. Now I thought this area would be quite important, so I'm going to emphasize on it a bit more to target the players that actually don't know what Ark spells do, how they work, and how to counter them, since Ark is actually one of the least played heroes in Dota 2. So let's start off with his first spell, Flux. Now Flux is actually a pretty simple spell. This spell does heavy damage over time to a single target, and the cast range increases by level. This should be maxed out most of the time unless you are having a hard lane, in which you would max your E or Wraith to CS. The way I put it is, if I'm against a hero that pushes out lanes very fast, like Lina or SF, and leave themselves vulnerable each time they push the wave, I will max Flux. If I'm crushing the lane, and the opponent is weak, I will max Flux. If the lane is hard, I will max Wraiths for CSing purposes. If your lane is countered, and Flux is dispellable, do not bother leveling it at all, and max your Wraiths and magnetic field to speed up farming. Now the slow and damage is lost if the affected target comes within 225 AoE of a friendly target, or if it is dispelled. This can be a hero, a creep, a neutral, a dominated creep, even ancients. But an important note, enemy creeps do not hold true to this statement, so aim to stand by allied creeps. If an ally is affected by this, make sure you stand by your buddy to negate the effect, as a lot of people still don't do this and prevent a death. Now if you don't know this already, Flux actually stacks with your clone's Flux, which a lot of people don't know. So this means double the slow, double the damage, and as shown here you can see there is 2 debuffs on the enemy. Now Warden does not have stuns, but if you're alone and you get comboed by him, it's better to man up and fight him, or run to creeps and TP, rather than TP out in the open, because Flux actually out damages fountain healing. If you do manage to TP with very quick reactions, you will not die if his wraiths not hit you. Now, as I show in this clip, in a theoretical situation, if you are tanky, you will most likely survive the TP back to base, but if you're a support and you're around 800 HP or under, you will die before you make the TP, so make the decision wisely or just take the death if he catches you out. My final tip for the Ark player using Flux. Make sure you abuse this in lane when the enemy hero pushes out the wave or strays from the creeps. Do not bother using it unless you know that they will start walking away from the creeps. Play aggressive when you Flux them. You can always get a few right clicks in. Notice in this clip how I just activated my ult and hit him. I get an easy kill, but make sure my main hero doesn't take too much damage from letting the clone tank the tower. Now our second spell is called Magnetic Field. Magnetic Field is an interesting spell. It is a great value point to have against physical range carries early, or even against heroes like Storm and Invoker. This spell should only be maxed if Flux is not useful in the lane, but it is generally maxed last in the build. The spell gives you attack speed and 100% evasion to most physical attacks while inside the effects of their force field. The only way someone can damage you physically is if they have an MKB or they run inside the bubble themselves. Now this clip I'm about to show you just shows how powerful the push is when placing the bubble on your team. When taking shrines and pushing high ground, it allows you to carry to not get hit by the tower and get free chip damage onto the towers. Even though I died this fight from poor positioning, if I actually place my magnetic field closer to the edge of my hero and on the edge of the side of the base, the Mars wouldn't have been able to hit me and get a satanic lifesteal. As long as your field is touching you, you should get the effect as if you're in it. As you can see here, I panic placed my field and I stuffed up. If I placed it on the edge of my hero, I would have killed them all. This spell can be very frustrating to play against, as the 100% evasion and attack speed works on buildings, and it doesn't actually have to cover the building, it only has to be touching it. That means that if the enemy are pushing your base, you can delay for a very long time, provided you don't get jumped in base. Here I will show you some sweet spots that I use to defend the base. While I'm showing you this, I will also give you another tip, that magnetic field also works on hero units such as Lone Druid Bear, Visage Birds, and Warlock Golems. I would advise that if you are struggling to push against Arc, you buy Meteor Hammers. Meteor Hammers aren't affected by Arc's bubble and still do damage. This one here is especially annoying because no one can hit it. Now the third spell in Arc's toolkit is pretty self-explanatory, but there are some useful things that you can actually do with the spell which I will show you. But first I will give you a quick rundown of the spell. It has 1000 cast range, so you can cast it very far away. The spirit takes 2 seconds to activate, so make sure you place the spirit in front of people if they aren't fluxed, or if they are fluxed, put them like right in front of them. You should be blocking off escape paths when people try to run, and make sure you are using it whenever you are full mana. The spell is very spammable, it has low mana cost, low cooldown, and lasts 50 seconds, so make sure you are always placing it behind the wave to zone the enemy mid, and on gank paths that you feel the enemy supports may come from if they are missing. If you are watching your spirit traps, the vision will follow the person that walks over it, even if they are smoked or invis, so it can work as a great trap. Now even though I don't do it early enough in this clip, you should be placing a Wraith on the rune spots at 0.55 seconds of every 2 minutes to help secure the rune and actually tell what the rune is. This also applies for the 5-minute bounty runes. Another helpful tip that I like to do is walking up at the 0-minute rune at around -40 seconds, then placing 2 to 3 spirits on the rune. This will also allow your teammates to contest the rune and will make the enemy scared of losing half their HP walking into a spirit bomb. You will also have almost full mana by the time you walk back to block your wave. You can also TP back to block, but I don't think this is really worth it, in case you get ganked within the TP cooldown period and you will miss out on a level or 2 walking back to lane. My final tip I feel is basically like having a techies on the team, but it's not as broken because you can stuff it up by hooking a creep in, and people have BKBs, they can activate it before the spirits actually damage them. The trick only works with 4 staffs, Magnus, Venge, or Pudge that can actually displace the enemy into your spirit bomb. It's best to place the spirits either in trees or on the side of your base to insta-kill someone. Usually around 8 to 9 spirits without the talent can either kill someone or take most of their HP off. When this trick is paired with a level 20 and 25 Spark Wraith talents, it can be devastating and can change the game drastically. But this situation is only useful if you have these heroes or items on your team and you're in a defensive position. You can also use traps like these in the tree lines to catch heroes like Tinker or AM. For example, in this video I stacked only 4 or 5 spirits paired with the level 25 talent and I one-shot the Tinker, which was pretty funny. One thing you should mind though, is if any part of the outer ring is visible outside of the tree line, you can give away your trap. Now I'd just like to point out here that spirits don't actually disjoint. They can keep following you until they hit you, or unless you buy a BKB and stop the damage, it will kill you or damage you a lot.
Positively.
So, moving on to Ark's ultimate. The tooltip basically explains what it does, but there are some important points I'd like to mention about it. So, your clone actually can't pick up bounty runes or power runes. It has to be your main hero. You still can however deny them. So, actually sending your clone up to deny a rune can sometimes be beneficial. As explained in the tooltip, the clone is classed as a hero, but cannot use or pick up certain items such as gem, rapier, dust, wards, and a few other consumables. There was a point in time where this was actually fine to do, but realistically, carrying a rapier and a gem and cheese without being able to drop the item was pretty OP. Now your ult being classed as a hero also means that you're susceptible to stat stealing heroes like OD's Orb, Slark Essence Shift, so try not to feed stats with your clone. Your main hero and ult hero have different cooldowns respectively. This means that you'll have to get into the habit of forming a mental no, such as when your Midas is off cooldown and your travels are off cooldown, etc. I think this is one of the most important tips. Another point to mention is that your ult actually is worth gold and XP. At level 1 it's 180 XP and gold, level 2 240 XP and gold, and level 3 300 gold and experience. So you have to be really careful not to feed your clone. I hope you guys learned some tips from Ark's spells, but now I'm going to have a quick talk about Ark's talents. So the level 10 talent is definitely the tier that requires the most thought. I think most people feel like the 8% cooldown is much superior as cooldown reduction talents at the moment are really strong. So I think 80% of the time take the cooldown reduction, but I think that 30 attack speed is also not to be overlooked, as if you are aiming to go a heavy right click build or you are pressured into early fighting against the deathball lineup, I think that taking this is the better option. It's all about thinking how much space you can get in relation to this tier. So for level 15, it's pretty straightforward. 300 health is a no-brainer, but 1 in 10 games that you are destroying everyone and the Flux range can be really useful, you should get it to continue dominance and end the game. Okay, so level 20 once again is also pretty straightforward, but the minus 1.5 spark cooldown definitely has games where it would be very useful. I usually pick this talent up if I'm versing an evasive hero like Storm, Tinker, Nature's Prophet, Ember, so I can scout the tree line constantly, or another situation where I would want this talent would be in relation to the tip before, where I showed the Spirit Bomb on the side of the base, but most of the time 125 attack range is the perfect talent to get you fighting from a safe distance and is more sought after. So for level 25, I think the talent comes down to more personal preference. I think both are very strong talents and are dependent on your build or current situation in the game. If you're trying to defend a lot or push high ground a lot, I'd recommend getting the plus 350% Spark Wraith damage, as the damage is insane. If you feel like you're fighting a lot and getting a lot of space to right click, take the 30% lifesteal, which in most cases is what you will be doing. Starting items should be fairly the same each game. The only swap outs I may do would be an early stick versus Zeus or Lena, or Basilius versus Kunkka or Clinks with high physical damage. The rest of the consumables you should be shipping out to keep you topped up. Don't feel bad for being greedy with the courier. You should be as the mid player. Around 10 minutes your items should look like this. You should have 1 to 2 Wraith bands, a wand or Basilius. Boots in either half or a full Midas. Some occasions if you are very far ahead, you can skip some of these items and rush Midas or rush a Necrobook, but 99% of the time getting a Midas is worth it. During this time frame, you should have Treads and Maelstrom if you are planning to fight early against the Deathball lineup. In rare cases, you'll have to skip Midas here and rush Treads Mjolnir. If you are having a good game, always rush a Mjolnir before your travels. You should only pick up travels first if you have freedom to split push. Otherwise, trust me, you will farm a hell of a lot faster getting the Mjolnir first. 25 minutes, build into your first mobility or defensive item, such as Hurricane Pike if you are farmed and plan to split push and fight. Go Scepter if you are threatened by physical cores such as PA or Clinks, or Shadowblade if you feel like you have to pick off potential. Even Lotus Orb can be good sometimes. Some games, rushing Necrobook against a greedy lineup and pushing is more optimal than playing for late game. Against heroes like Spec, CK, Medusa, you want to do this. So this is how some of your builds should look late game. Find a balance between damage, survivability, and initiation. If you're planning to push hard and not take many fights, I suggest adding a Soul Curious, maybe a Deso, or even Meteor Hammer to be a nuisance with split pushing. If you are looking to play a pick-off game and gank with Shadowblade, I would recommend Nullifier Bloodthorn combo, as it's almost a guaranteed kill on any hero. Or if you need instant initiation in fights, you should be looking at getting a Hex. If you are having a rough game against physical cores, look at building utility items like Halberd, E-Blade, Hex, Shivas, Manta, and Lincolns. If you are having trouble against magic cores, pick up items like BKB, Lincolns, and Aeon Disc. A note to mention is BKBs can have different cooldowns on both your heroes, so keep note of that. We are almost at the end of this guide, but before that I would like to give you some exclusive strategic tips to increase your chances of winning even more. Tip 1. Always carry a TP scroll, even if you have travels. More often than not, you will find yourself having to TP your clone back out again after traveling it in. TP is one of the only consumables on your clone that doesn't lose charges, but if you don't have it on your main when you cast it, your clone won't have one. In this fight I actually don't have a TP on me, so this was a very risky play by me, TPing into a lost fight. But I saw the sniper was away from his team and the side shot was close, so I killed him, grabbed a TP and TP'd out. Tip 2. Using Flux to CS creeps that you missed with your auto attack, and securing the back range creep by using a Wraith plus auto attack at the same time to increase harass and kill potential. Tip 3. Always send your clone in first to evaluate a fight and bait spells, then decide whether to bring your main hero in or not. Knowing when a fight doesn't need your main hero differentiates good art players from the bad. Tip 4 is a quick tip. You should just make sure when you're split pushing to put me on the front creep. This will allow you to push out the lane safely and get some CS. Tip 5. Asking your carry to smoke with you for Roche at around 15 to 30 minutes. When you have 3 or 4 points in magnetic shield, ask your other teammates to show on the map and use this early Roche to your advantage. A note that I will add is try not to pick up the Aegis on Arc, because if you are playing it right, you should be at the back of the fight, not frontlining. Roche is soloable if you are well ahead. This fight was very risky, but we ended up taking it very fast and winning the fight. So that's it guys, thank you so much for watching. I apologize for any microphone noises or bad quality, but this was my first ever video edit and guide, so I feel like I did a pretty decent job. Let me know what you think in the comments, if there's anything I've missed about Arc or anything I can improve on, or any guides you want in the future, or even some editing tips that you have for me. That would be great and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.